The tone of our 7-day FDP on research methodology was rightly set by the ardent researcher, Professor V.S. Ghumman, Vice Chancellor, Punjabi University, Patiala. The pace was maintained on the second day by Professor Avren Jha from Central Bhim Rao Ambedkar Central University, Lucknow, and Dr. Amit Kaurs. Today's first session is being taken by Dr. Mandeep Kochhar, Vice Principal, BTTC, Mumbai, who has already been introduced to you. I know Dr. Mandeep Kochhar as an ardent researcher and having wonderful case studies. And today she is sharing case study research with the participants. The second session is being taken by Dr. Amandeep Singh, Assistant Professor, School of Management Studies, Punjab University, Patiala. Dr. Amanpreet has affinity for statistical processes and the data analysis. He'll be joining us later. I'm happy to extend welcome to the resource persons of the day, Dr. Mandeep Kochhar, on behalf of Multani Malmodi College and on behalf of CTEF, Punjab and Chandigarh. I hope the participants will be benefited with your deliberation. Just for the information of the resource persons, I would like to inform that by end of the session, every day, we put forward an Google form, Google quiz on the basis of the session delivered by the resource persons. And the participants fill by the next day. Every day it is given. I hope from today's session, we will also be preparing this Google quiz and will be posted by tomorrow morning for the participants. So welcome to the resource persons. Thank you very much for giving your time. And now over to Dr. Mandeep Kochhar.
Thank you, sir. Very good afternoon to all present over here. And at the outset on this platform, I am very grateful to the principal, Dr. Khushvinder Kumar, for giving me this opportunity, giving me this chance to stay connected with my native. I belong to Punjab basically. For last 25 years, I have learned a lot living in Mumbai and working with Mumbai University. So I am very glad to share my expertise with my not only from the people of for the people of Punjab, but all over. It's a nice gathering over here. I got to know there are around 600 to 700 participants in this webinar. So I will be taking up the topic which is given to me is for case study research. So I'm glad to share with you the case study experience of mine, what I have gathered in the field of education very specifically. As you all have learned for last 2 days, I will not go much into detail about qualitative and quantitative research. I think as a researcher, we need to grow above this debate of what is better, qualitative research is better or quantitative research is better, or certain things which we discuss that sometimes maybe which is better research as well as which is easier research. So qualitative also I will not take up into consideration what is the difference between the two, because I had been told that devoted topics are given to you for qualitative research, the differences between the two. So as we all know that case study research is a qualitative research. I assume we are very clear about it, that qualitative and quantitative researches have different types. So case study basically belongs to the category of qualitative research. That's the first understanding which we need to have. Case study is a type of, case study research is a type of qualitative research. So when we talk about case study, before I come to the very specific definitions of case study, I wish to just mention about case study is a research strategy. basically, as I just mentioned, that it is a strategy for researching, and an empirical inquiry that investigates a phenomena. Now, this is what is very important over here to understand. It is a phenomenon which is to be understood within its real life context. Now, these two things over here we will be keeping in our mind all the time for this coming 40-50 minutes, when we will be learning in detail, in depth about case study. Basically, it is a phenomenon which is to be understood, but real life context is very, very important. A comprehensive, intensive study of a single unit. Now, single unit itself can be a class also, a group of people also, a community also. But over here, this A is very important. A class, a community, corporation, a corporative division are out of all these one particular dimension which we are taking. That dimension can be, suppose we have taken corporation. Out of corporation, we are talking about marketing, we are talking about advertisement, accountancy. So these are the things when we are talking about from one particular case, that factor needs to be focused throughout our research very intensely. That is what is very important. Now, case study has been defined differently by different people. There are a number of definitions which are given for case study. Young has given the definition, Grood and Hutt has given the definition, Cooley has given. So if you look into systematically, 53, one definition was given, 84, one definition was given. So I have chosen to be discussing with you the latest definition that is given in 2011. Now, Thomas says that case studies are the analysis of a person. Now, this is what is important: analysis of a person, events, decisions, periods. Now, period, it can be a longer period. It can be a period of 10 years. It can be a period of, now we say after 14 years, the generation changes. So now when we take the period, we call that generation, we have given that generation a name. For example, we talk about generation X, generation Z. So when we talk about these kind of generations, so we talk about this particular period, we talk about particular time. We talk about projects, policies, institutions, or any other system. But as I said it, one capital A is very important, and which again, it is a holistic study by one or more methods. We can be applying different methods also in case study, but holistic approach takes into consideration that we are talking about all the dimensions of that particular person. We are trying to make an inquiry of that particular phenomena, the process, the project, anything, that object which we take into consideration, and we go in depth and we elaborate in that particular one particular area. Now, as I said it, that focus area remains always the, you can say, the pivot of the whole study. The central idea always remains the same for a case study. So case study can be characterized, it has different characteristics of different types of case study also, which we will be learning. The descriptive style can be there. It combines objectives and subjectivity also. There has to be objectivity, there has to be subjectivity also. Then we talk about narrowly focused. This is what is very important. When we talk about narrowly focused, we talk about how deep we can go in that particular case study, which depends upon what kind of questions we are trying to answer into that particular case study. It is process oriented. It can be simple process, and basically we just follow. When we talk about case study, we will be just little bit mentioning about over here different kind of ethnography case studies also. But when we say ethnography research, that kind of research is different. But when we have chosen that as a case, it becomes ethnographic case study. And that is a different kind of case study, which we can be taking up into different sessions for its understanding. Now, I wish to discuss with you about a Google survey, which the responses were gathered from one of the webinars during this period only. There were 5,000 respondents to this particular information, to particular knowledge about case study. This had been recently, you can say maybe 1 month ago only, about the knowledge, understanding of researchers. The participants of that webinars were all the researchers or upcoming researchers. Uh, the questionnaire posed to them to know about who all can be conducting the case study. Now, when we say case study, who all can be conducting, scientists can be taking up the case study, therapists can be taking up the case study, counselors, administrators, managers, teachers, research scholars. So if you teachers itself also, so when you look into the whole scenario of case study, students also can be taking up. I don't think any of the area which is remaining over here in the field of education where case study cannot be conducted. That means case study takes into consideration almost all the areas of social setup, which is very important for us to know. The question which was posed to the participants was, only qualitative data is required for case study. Now you need to pay attention over here how confusing answer had come out of the 5,000 respondents when have answered to this particular question. That means people yet are not. When I say people, I focus only on educationists. I only focus on aspirants of researchers. They are still not very clear about case study because almost 50% of the population has given answer to it. Only qualitative data is required for case study. Now, if we say only qualitative data is required, then we are depending upon only our interviews, only our observations, but qualitative data also needs to be quantified with some quantitative data. Now, when we come into the process of quantitative data, there is a process of analyzing. We need to have very specific focusing of grouping of our qualitative data, and that also with authentic proof. So if we say only qualitative data also was not absolutely true answer. When you read the question, this part of the question was important. So we can be having quantitative data also, we can be having qualitative data also, but in case study, observations and quality is more important. How you convert your quality data into your quantity by number of observations, by number of questions, makes your quantity or your data more authentic in case studies. Case study method and case study researches are same. Now, when I am talking to you about case study, I am wanting to make it more clear what case study is not. So this is what specifically that Google formation of the questions were based on. When we talk about case study method, or when we talk about case study research or case study case history, there are three different things which are associated to this particular concept. I will take an example over here. Now this example, if you look into, the difference between case study and action research, if you look into, and it's a very specifically mentioned over here about the two things. Now, when a teacher in the class is using case study method, basically, Now that case study method is the methodology of making students learn through case study method. We cannot say that it is a case study research. Remember, when we talk about research, that research needs to be documented. Any research, when it comes on the paper in the form of either your degree or your partial fulfillment or your paper presentation or any kind of funding research, when it is documented, it is a research. When it is used as a method in the classroom, now what example I have taken over here, teacher takes up an example to teach through case study. So this is case study, right? We all know there were floods in 2013. Uttarakhand floods were there. Probably teacher will not mention even 2013 as the figure also to be presented before the students. So teacher will just say, find out the information on Uttarakhand floods. So students will be finding out the information maybe on Google, probably because textbooks do not have this information much in detail. So they will have to take the support from the internet, or they will ask, they will inquire, they will find out from their adults what happened at that particular time. But if you look into the situation, so teacher over here is using case study as method. Teacher is using this method in teaching learning process. So over here, this example, if we say, it is not a research, but it is a method. So teacher using case study method in the classroom. Whereas over here in this situation, if you look into, now there are two situations. Teacher can be conducting a research. You look into the second picture, teacher can be taking up a research of utilization of technology in the classroom. Now, if teacher makes lot of observations, try to find out, in this whole is a homogeneous group, whole class is one particular section, one age group. So teacher can be using this as an example of case study, how much students can be learning through technology. Now this again is a case study, but again when we call it an action research, ultimately when teacher picks up one child over here sitting, everyone else is comfortable with technology, everyone else can be learning through technology. Technology is very helpful in the classroom, but one particular child is very uncomfortable. So this individual child becomes a case for the teacher. Individual child becomes a study for the teacher. Now there is a large group, that also can be a case study, but ultimately we need to understand, are we using it as a method, are we applying it as a methodology, or what are our inferences? If we are documenting our inferences, it becomes a research, which is very, very important for any researcher, for any person to understand what is the difference between case study methodology, case history, and case study method implemented by the teacher. So these are the differences which are made clear over here. Case history is very important for clinical research. If you do not have case history, it becomes very difficult. So researcher can proceed only if researcher develops a good case history. If case history is available, then case study or further implication of that case or any inferences or any diagnostic implication can be possible for the, it can be a clinical person, it can be a teacher. Now when children are shifted from from special institutions to inclusive institutions, they have their case study. So when when a child comes to a teacher in inclusive environment, teacher needs to have the case history of the child to include that particular child in inclusive environment. case history includes all the progressive. We call it individualized progressive plan. So all progressive plan is the case history, which is the content of individual, which is very helpful for the teacher. So case study methodology, case study research, case study method. It is very important for us to know as a researcher what we are focusing upon or how we are utilizing that in particular. There are different types of case studies also. I will not go much in detail about it. Descriptive researches are there, exploratory researches are there. Ethnography, as I mentioned to you, it is a complete different kind of research all by itself. But all these different types of qualitative research, they have their pattern. They have evaluation case study also is there. So this is how different psychologists, different researchers have categorized them. Out of these whole total categorization, we come to the conclusion the major categories of case studies can be under these larger umbrella, larger shelter, which we can say. Case studies can be individual case studies. It can be organizational level case studies. Now, for example, I can give you some of the examples from Mumbai. We have over here minimum 10 special schools. If I count on my fingers, I can simply count Aliyavar Young is there, special education is there. So many institutions are there, but ultimately how one particular institution is helpful to us in our individual, as individual case in our educational setup. So you are studying organizational case study, you are doing a research on that, and then you are trying to find out one particular example how it is helpful in social setup. Now, for example, in Punjab, I can be mentioning some of the examples as Pingalwada is making lot of contribution to social setup. Pingalwada is giving the educational information also. Pingalwada is giving the vocational training to people also. It is generating lot of job also. So somebody making a study on that particular organization, it becomes organizational or educational case study for us, for the teachers to benefit out of it. We can be studying the process. As I mentioned, marketing, finance, production, these are the different levels of. Now, as I said, case study is not only for education. It can be helpful to anyone. It can be helpful even to the managers. In management studies nowadays, case studies are very, very important. In the colleges of management, in MBAs. So these are very, very important cases. Their success stories, failure stories are very, very important for marketing, for development of new strategies. So this is how case studies can be helpful to us, and researches can be conducted on community studies. Community is a large sector of community, but it is, again, as I said it, a community. Now, for example, if I give you a Sindhi community, Parsi community, transgenders community. So one community, LGBT community, but basically their characteristics as community are all same. So that's why we can say we can be dividing the events, roles, relationships, psychological, behavioral, mental case studies are very, very important features of categorizing the case studies. This was one of the questions which was given to the people, which I have already mentioned. Respondents were supposed to be answering all equally. Now, very sadly, I need to share with you, some of the respondents, they said it, case studies cannot be conducted on none of the above was the answer. That means 5.7% people still think case studies cannot be conducted on challenged persons. It cannot be conducted on unnatural instances. It cannot be conducted on individuals. Whereas the answer is case study can be conducted on all of them. It can be conducted on individuals, it can be conducted on large group. So this is what is all about case study. Basically, it is helpful in all the sectors. Explanatory case study is very helpful for description, whereas collective case study is very helpful for the group of individuals. Descriptive case study can be gathering new and the pre-existing theories. It can be describing the new things and can be making the comparative analysis, which is very helpful. Exploratory case studies always is making us explore more and more, which is very, very important and which is very helpful. Intrinsic case study is always the interest of or curiosity of the researchers, which is very, very important. One needs to be very clear about it, what I am wanting to find out. What is the purpose of my case study? Instrumental case study is it makes us understand what is the science behind it. And when we say science, we talk about phenomenon, because whatever is the observation, we try to record our observations. So that's how the phenomenon is to be understood, which is very, very important. Very important question was asked to the respondents, that hypothesis versus research question, what is important over here? I would say the most important thing over here was hypothesis is not the key component of the research. Hypothesis basically is, see, if you remember, hypothesis is only a assumption. It is only a, you can say, what we assume that this is how we will proceed. Now, case study research does not always have a precisely framed hypothesis. If we make the assumptions, we try to manipulate our data also, which is not a healthy research, which is not a direction of the research. In case study, you develop research questions. You frame research questions. You have objectives and you have research questions, but you do not have very precisely framed hypothesis. So this was the responses. Again, the responses of the participants were not very healthy, as well as it was a disappointing response of the participants. Review of related literature in case study was the question which was again asked to them. And again, I would say review of related literature is not the key component, because as I mentioned, sometimes you yourself are going to be the pioneer researcher of any particular case. So you may be having other variables of that particular study which are studied by some other people. You may be having some variables which are studied in different, you can say, locations, but you may not have absolutely related literature of your case study. So sometimes your particular case study is going to be the pioneer study of your university, your research. So please do not waste much of your time in finding reviews of that particular literature, because if that case is one of the kind of happening, then naturally there will not be many those kinds of happenings in the situation. So you need not to be having extensive review literature for your particular case study. So what are the key components of an effective case study? You need to be having a problem. You need to be having a particular case, make good observations of that. You need to be having, you can say, suggestive solutions and options. And then you develop a research. If that particular kind of case study is done, probably that particular case study will become a pioneer case study for bringing about the change in the law. Even that also can be one of the effort. That also can be one of the attempt by the researchers. So your results can bringing about the change even in the constitution also, even in the law also. So it is very, very important that case study researches should be effectively conducted by the researchers very ethically, conscientiously. It is important. These are the steps which I wish to quickly discuss with you, because when we go in the detail of types of researches, I will be discussing over there. Read the case thoroughly, define the central issue, which is very, very important. So these 7 steps you must follow when you write a case study. Define the goal of the researcher. Now, goal of the researcher is basically your objective also. Identify the constraints of the problem. Very, very important, I would say, because some people may not like to get interviewed. Some people may not like to be recorded as their information, whatever they are providing. So here one needs to be facing those challenges, which are very important. Identify the relevant alternatives. Best suitable alternatives can be. Now, alternatives over here can be interviewers, opinionaire, or questionnaire. So what can be most suitable to your kind of research? You need to be deciding as a researcher by yourself. Develop a implementation plan. How you will go about it is very, very important. So these are the 7 steps which you need to be having in your mind for developing, for writing a particular case study. Some of these things, which how to conduct a case study, which I have already discussed, I will go a little faster over here. Identify the case, go for data collection, observations, interviews. Audio visual material is very important. As I mentioned, that you need to have a good recorder. You need to have a kind of how you will record those. The devices are very important over here, which are very important for conducting a case study. There are some benefits. As I mentioned earlier, the benefit, the biggest benefit of case study can be, it can bring about the change even in holistic approach of educational setup, of process of examination, or kind of curriculum development. So any kind of change any case study can bring about, which is very, very important. The challenges are, it is very time consuming. One needs to be bearing the particular cost. Every research cannot be a funded research. If you are intending to do a case study research, you need to be ready for it. Sometimes you need to be bearing the cost all by yourself. One needs to be coming out of the errors of biasness. One needs to be very clear, and one needs to be very bold enough to be doing a case study research, because the moment you present your data crystal clear, then only the case study has to be having a positive and sufficient impact on individuals, which is very important. So one needs to be very bold in doing case study research, which is important. Ethical principles are very important. Nowadays, there are agencies, there are universities which can be giving you ethical certification for doing a case study research, because you are doing on individuals, you are doing on organization. You cannot just enter into any organization without their permission. You cannot be doing any case study on any of the individual without taking the permission from at least 3 to 4 quadrants. Now, those 3 to 4 quadrants are the administration. Suppose if you are doing on a child, the parents, and then the teacher. So probably sometimes among the peers also. So these 4 quadrants are to be taken into confidence for doing a case study, and ethical principles are very, very important for any case study to be conducted. You cannot be simply publishing the pictures of that particular individual who is a challenged child. You cannot be exposing the names of individuals also who is a slow learner. So these are the ethical principles which are very, very important. One needs to be following a case study. And very important principle, I always say, you need to be having a truth telling principle, which is very important. If you manipulate or if you deviate from the original data, case study can be a disastrous study also. One needs to be having very careful ethical principles about it, that I do not hide the facts and do not manipulate the facts whenever you are doing a case study research. There are one or two studies which I, looking into the time, I will go about these case studies. I wanted to present before you these case studies which are conducted in Mumbai by the researcher. So now one of the case, as I said it, a person can be taken into consideration, a group can be taken, an organization can be taken, or an event can be taken into consideration. So in first of the case studies which I wanted to discuss with you very much in detail. Now look into the title of the study. It's an attitude of teachers, parents, corporate community, and important variable over here is transgender community. Now I make it very clear, when I'm talking about transgender community, I am not talking about LGBT. I'm talking about only eunuchs. Now if I talk about Mumbai, we call over here to this particular community, we call hijras. I think in Punjab you call them khusra, and there are various other names which are given to. Eunuchs is the community which have biological disorder. When we talk about uh, academic challenged people, we, or when we talk about LGBT, we have emotional disorder. Those are the people who are wanting to live the kind of life which they want to, which they wish to live is by their emotional choice. But here, this community, eunuchs, they have biological disorder. They cannot be, they do not have reproductive organ, so they cannot be having a family life. This is the community where we talk about, we call them khusras in Punjab. The keywords over here were transgender, eunuchs, hijra, attitude, and then we are talking about inclusion. The base of the research over here is Supreme Court has given the order that eunuchs as a community should be included in our educational setup. Now, if you notice, we all have male, female, slash T. One T is put up over there, even for admission purpose, even for job purpose, whenever, even for banking purpose. When we have those forms to be filled up, we have male, female, transgender. Now, when did this happen? This happened somewhere in 2012 and 13. Supreme Court came up with this. And in 2015, basically, this research was conducted. Supreme Court has just simply given a notification that these people should be included. Researcher wanted to find out how much is the present system, present existing system is ready to face transgender inclusion. Now, as I said it, you can't be having the hypothesis in case studies. So you need to be having research questions. So these are the research questions. Are we mentally ready to build the bridges between the genders? How much equipped we are in our existing system to face transgender inclusion? How the school curriculum is fair enough? When I talk about school curriculum, you need to pay attention. Our textbooks are still talking about boys and girls, men and women. Our textbooks do not talk about men, women, and transgender. When teacher goes in the class, teacher says, boys and girls, please stand up. Boys and girls, please sit down. Does teacher talk about transgender, or are we sufficient or able enough to address to transgender community in our social setup? So researcher wanted to find out over here how equipped we are for our system. So comparative analysis of 3 communities was made over here. Parental attitude was checked. Corporate community was taken into consideration. Teachers' attitude was taken into consideration. These were the parameters: domestic help, workplace attitude, social interaction attitude, and lifestyle attitude were the parameters where researcher wanted to find out from different kinds of people, different dimensions of people. The findings are saying people are yet not mentally ready for social acceptance of transgender. The bigger, you can say, the biggest finding of the researcher: people are not aware about legal implementation of transgender. People still do not know, the corporate sector or the school principals, or they do not still know about it. Now probably after 4 years of this research and maybe for more of inclusion, people are aware about it. But still, when this research was conducted in 2016 and 15-16, the first inferences was people are not mentally ready. Now statistical figures over here say 98% of people were not ready to mingle with transgender. People were not able. Only 2% people were ready for transgender inclusion. People do not want their children to be mingling. For themselves, it is okay. But even for their children, they do not want them to be mingling with eunuchs. And transgender community yet had not been accepted by the general public was most important, you can say, the finding of the research. Now another variable which was added to the research later, researcher wanted to find out how much transgenders are ready to be included in the society. So the next variable for the next further research in this particular case study was, what is their opinion about it? So from their angle and their variable, when it was added, they still face lot of rejection in employment. Firms absolutely turn them down for their recruitment. They do not consider them at all, even if they are qualified or they have good potential. They do not get very good jobs. Further, it was, now if you look into that, some of them only they are ready to come back to the inclusion, they are ready for their social acceptance. But most of them, they are ready to be working as the larger community as they are working. For example, in Mumbai, most popular is prostitution and begging. So the larger community was ready even for this particular thing. They do not want to come back to the social acceptance, because once they had been rejected by the society, they do not wish to come back to the common platform of the society. The study shows a condition of transgenders has changed over a period of time. They have become, society has started accepting to them, but still the total inclusion is much, much far from the social acceptance. So, and the learning outcome, when the researcher continued for finding out more about this particular case, this was the learning outcome of the study. There is a cafe, Third Eye Cafe in Mumbai, which is actually run by the transgender. If you look into the pictures, there is the owner of that cafe who is recruiting the people also who are transgender. And in their own community, they have large social gatherings. And researcher can endorse to this, the people who come to this particular cafe, they are all general public, they are common man, they are, I mean, whosoever wants to go to, but the people around them, they all know that this cafe belongs to only transgenders. So probably this case study was a lot of learning, lot of message generating for the people, that we, how do we need to include them, what vocational training we can be making for these transgender to make them fully included in our society, was the learning outcome of this particular research which I wanted to present before you all. Second case study which I wanted to present to you all was basically in Bombay, in Mumbai, Irani cafes has been having a grand brand. There is a Parsi community which shifted, which when shifted, they are called Zoroastrians, and when they shifted to India, lots of you can say the cafe as well as brand which they had developed for tourism. So people specifically like to go to those Irani cafes because of their aroma, because of their fragrance, because of their style of serving to the community. But over a period of time, I would say in this particular arena, in this particular 21st century time, for last 20 years, if you look into, as the commercialization of food industry has taken place, bistro heritage taken over by fast food culture. Now, when fast food culture came into existence, these kind of Irani cafes, as well as Parsi community, as well as the brand community of tourism industry, which had been very significantly contributing, it started dying on its own. So researcher wanted to find out what happened in the whole process, basically why this grand brand in Mumbai, very specifically Mumbai and Calcutta, they had their branded community which was in the process. So what happened to them? Actually gradually they are dying their own death. Why it is taken over by McDonald's, why it is taken over by Manjani's, why it is taken over by any kind of cafe which exists over here. So this was the research which was wanting to find out the demise of Mumbai's Irani cafes. So researchers observed over here in some of the specifically cases where interviewer was organized, the questionnaire was presented. There, the most senior citizens of that community were interviewed 3 to 4 times at different timing, which was important because when they were in the peak hours, sometimes their responses were different. When they were in the down day down timings, their responses were different. So 3 to 4 sessions of interviews were conducted by them. At that point of time, in some of their interviews, they even blamed their own generation responsible for the dying or demise of Mumbai's Irani cafes. So researchers over here highlighted the community had refusal for Irani community from outside council responsible. They wanted their own community people only be their support. For not bringing timely change, they wanted to be having their particular kind of serving style, their particular kind of cooking style. They did not change their attire. So these are the various factors which did not actually fascinate to upcoming generation. And very important, when government schemes came into existence, they did not want to take any support from government schemes. They felt they are self-sufficient, they are not downtrodden, so they are rich, and they considered Parsi community is very rich community, so they will not take government support. So gradually their business, which was a grand brand for Mumbaikars, it started dying its own death. Niche category did not support the cafe's ideology. So their ideology basically was not the accepted ideology. The information gathered justified that Irani cafes have difficult time in surviving to compete with the fast food industry. It was very difficult for them to stand by fast food industry. Then Irani cafes contributed to Mumbai's Dabbawalas is a very large community in Mumbai, and they are serving to the all working class. But as they were dying, so basically even Mumbai dabbawalas also quickly shifted over to other community. They shifted over to fast food community, they shifted over to fast restaurants, but then gradually in the whole process, to whom they were serving, the Irani cafes were serving, gradually they did not stand and their survival was challenged. It is disappointing to state over here that Irani cafes could not have fantastic business opportunity for their upcoming youth, and you can say for the century, the 21st century of Mumbai. Otherwise, they themselves can be a industry for their upcoming generation. This was basically again a finding of this particular case study, which was very I mean, it was fascinating for me to be discussing with you. So I wanted to, that research questions are very important. Case is very important. How you develop the process to find out the information, how you interview the people, and what are your research outcomes of that particular case, which is very, very important for you to be mentioning as a case study researcher. I wish to take 2-3 minutes on reliability and validity of case study. Although it is very challenging, like other research methods, it is very important to demonstrate the reliability and validity in case study, because you cannot be having numerical figures over here. You cannot be having the calculated formulas over here. So this might be very difficult for any uniqueness of the situation. The cases may be inconsistent with other case studies. So thus what you need to have very specifically over here is, you need to have good research questions. If you develop good research questions, that serves all the purpose for you. So for good research questions, you need to be having what exactly is the case, how it is to be identified, how it is to be selected. You need to be very clear about it. What kind of case study had been selected and what is the purpose of your case study? To what extent is triangulation required? As I said, it triangulation means all the angles need to be covered, all the dimensions need to be covered up. So this is what is very important. How will the balance be struck between uniqueness and generalization? Generally, case studies cannot be generalized, but their inferences can be generalized. So inferences, when you talk about, if it becomes a all the time change, then it can be generalized. Otherwise, every case study is a unique and a different case study from one particular factor or one particular focus. How will the balance, sorry, the next one, what is the most important form of writing the case study and reporting the case study? You need to be having a scientific observation, but a systematic pattern of qualitative research for writing a case study method also is very important. Again, I just quickly sum up by saying describing the case study ethically is very, very important. Whenever you are doing a case study, just keep in mind whom you are trying to study. What is your case? What is your institution? What is your program? The policy. So that this who should be very clear in your mind as a researcher. What are the components you need to be including in your research, which are very, very important. Do not leave any component which relates to that particular case study, which is very important. One case study can be different from the another case study. So you need to be very specific to the location. Now, as I said it, transgenders in Mumbai, and again, khusras in Punjab, the location changes. So when the location changes, my research over here in Mumbai may be different case study from yours in Punjab. So that is how location has very significant role in that particular case study. You need to know your own uniqueness of your case study, what process you will be following. Describe your case study very, very ethically. I wind up by saying that reliability and validity is all your conscientiousness, all your truthfulness, how truthfully you have presented your facts before the audience, how how your acceptance of that case study of your personal at your personal level, that this is what I have gathered and I want to present it as I have gathered or observed by myself, by not considering into mind whether my case study will be accepted by the university or it will be taken up by my senior researchers. So when your senior researchers will examine your research as a true or trustworthy or a honest, transparent research, then only you can be considering your research has been ethically true for the community, for the society. So very important suggestion over here is, in case study you do not have any chance of manipulating your data in experimentation form. So case study is absolutely opposite of experimental research, which I would want to conclude by saying thank you so much for listening to me. There is a next presenter waiting for it. You will more from that. I could not check the chat questions. If any chat questions are there at the end of the session, if you want to take up from me, I am ready to answer to the chat questions also. Thank you for your patient listening. All over to the organizers.
Thanks, Dr. Mandeep Pochard, for sharing your expertise. It was really nice listening to you. The participants must have enjoyed your presentation. We will look forward to have your services in future also. Thanks, madam. So
Thank
nice
you,
of you.
Dr. Yogesh. I will stop sharing my screen now, and
Sure,
thank
madam.
you for continuing the session. Thank you. Thank you to Dr. Kushvinder Kumar for connecting me to my native, as I said it. So thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Mandeep, for giving your time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yogesh, I have stopped sharing my screen.
Yes, ma'am. Screen is off now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yogesh ji?
Dr. Yogesh, are you here?
Sir, mic पे connection का lost हो गया जी.
Anyhow, I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Dr. Amanpreet is already with us.
Yes, sir.
As already has been introduced in the beginning, Dr. Amanpreet Singh is an assistant professor from School of Management Studies, Punjabi University, Patiala. And he has specialization in research methodology and statistical processes. As far as I know, he has a special affinity for statistics and statistical data and tools. Dr. Amanpreet, I extend welcome on behalf of Multani Mal Modi College and on behalf of CTEF. I hope the participants will be benefited from your session. I would like to share my observation regarding the beginners or the researchers. As far as I had experienced, researchers find it very difficult to classify or define the variables and then to select the tools for measuring the variables, because they usually lack in the understanding of the scales of measurement. I hope this of your session will be throwing a light on all of these issues. So welcome. I extend welcome on behalf of the organizers. Over to you, Dr. Amanpreet.
Thank you, Dr. Saab. A very, very good afternoon to everybody. I believe my voice is audible to everyone.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Everyone can easily understand. I mean, my voice is easily audible. Or should
Dr.
I speak
Amanpreet, it
louder?
is audible. Kindly try to be a little more louder. It
Okay,
is
okay.
in
I'll be a
less.
little louder. Sure.
Right, right. Thank you.
So today, this screen is visible to you. My presentation is visible.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So as you already know what is the content of the presentation today. Today we are going to discuss about measurement and scaling. Uh, you see, the first slide I always go with this, that you see on your slides there are some physical scales that we use in our day-to-day life for heavy weights, for smaller weights, for kilometers and all this. These are the true form of scales. These are the scales which we generally use in our day-to-day life in true form to measure weights and distance. But what happens that in social sciences, especially, which is our domain of research, we do not have these kind of physical scales available. Absolute scales are not available with us. So we have to develop those scales. We have to develop and validate those scales so that the measurements that we are making on it, and then we have to record the, we have to measure the responses on it. So what is measurement? So today's topic is measurement and scaling. So what is measurement? Measurement means assigning a number or other symbols to characteristics of objects according to certain pre-specified rule. So what we do in measurement? In measurement, we try to quantify certain characteristic, human characteristic, that may be loyalty. Basically, all these are qualitative phenomena which we try to quantify in our social sciences research. And measurement means giving certain quantification, quantified value to certain characteristic based on certain pre-specified rules. Now, these rules must have certain basic properties. These are the three properties which are listed below. First is one-to-one correspondence between the numbers and the characteristics being observed or measured. So there has to be one-to-one correspondence between the characteristics. As the number increase, the characteristic must also increase, and there must be a certain multiplication formula between that, right? For example, 6 kgs 3 times the 2 kgs. The rules for assigning numbers should be standardized and applied uniformly. Now, whatever rules we have formed to develop the scales, these rules should be uniform. And rules must not change over the object's or time. These rules must remain same also. Scaling refers to creating a continuum. Now we are talking of basically measuring the attitudes or some qualitative phenomena. Scaling refers to creating a continuum. Continuum means a number upon which measured objects are located. It is a continuous number and upon which certain objects are located. For example, you go to a restaurant, and after you are being served into the restaurant, I ask you to rate the services of the restaurant on the scale of 1 to 100. 1 means extremely unfavorable and 100 means extremely favorable. And you are able to mark it at, on this continuum. So this is 1 to 100 is a continuum. It is a continuous rating scale. And based on experience you had in the restaurant, you can mark it 70, 75, 80, up to which extent the restaurant was able to meet your expectations. So this is what we call is the scaling. Scaling means referring to, creating a continuum. Continuum, I mean, rating on a continuous series. Primarily, data is of 4 types. I believe everybody understand data types. Data is classified into 4 types. Whatever information you obtain, it has to fall into at least one of these types. First is nominal data, then ordinal, the third one is interval, and fourth one is a ratio data. Okay, in front of you there is one slide which gives you one example of all these 4 types of data, and this slide has been borrowed from Malhotra's book 2013 edition. This is a book by Naresh Kumar Malhotra, Marketing Research. Right. So what is a nominal scale? Nominal data is nothing but a number. This is a number assigned to anybody. For example, jersey number, right? Your gender, your profession, right? So idea is that it is just a certain classification. You are either male or female, that is a nominal data. Your profession, for example, somebody is a student, somebody is a teacher, somebody is a businessman, somebody is a farmer. So it is just like a classification number, and we put them into certain kind of, we give them a code or 783. These are nothing but the codes or numbers given to them. It doesn't provide us any information more than this, that what is your category, or in which classification category somebody belongs to, so in which group somebody belongs to. So this is the most basic type of data. Second is the ordinal data. We can put the things into certain kind of order. For example, first place, second place, third place. Now we are able to classify the objects in certain order, from increasing order or decreasing order. First place, second place, third place, but it doesn't give us more information about it, that what is the difference between first place and second place and third place, right? It doesn't provide us. Now the difference between the first place and second place and third place may be same or may not be same. Interval scale is another type of scale which gives us more information as compared to ordinal data. This is a scale actually which provide us information which is a pseudo ratio kind of scale. For example, from 1 to 10 scale or 0 to 10 scale, what is your score on this scale? Somebody has obtained scale of 9.6, 9.1, 8.2. So these are the scores from 1 to 10. For example, judges give ranking to the beauty competition. We see that judges are there and they have to mark out of 10. Right? Somebody would mark it 9.6, somebody would mark it 9.1, somebody would mark it 8.2. So it gives us more information on it, but it is again some sort of subjective kind of scale. It is not true in measurement. Somebody has, out of its brain generated some number of 9.6, 9.1 and 8.2 on the scale of 10 and given this number. Whereas ratio scale is a true scale, which is actually truly measured using some physical instrument, just like this instrument, right? Some timing instrument, just like stopwatch or something like this. And it is a true information. So let us quickly go through these one by one. Nominal data is nothing but the number serve only as, it is a number which serve only as a label or tag for identifying and classification of objects. When used for identification, there is a strict one-to-one correspondence between the numbers and the objects. And the numbers do not reflect the amount of characteristic. This is nothing but a number. I mean, for example, male and female. So male and female are nothing but that is their gender. It doesn't provide us any information which has more gender or which has less gender, nothing like this. So there are two identified distinct, classifications. You see, only the permission operation on numbers is counting. We can do all statistical tools which are based on counting. Statistical tests which are we generally apply on this are frequency, count, percentage, mode, and you can use chi-square test, which is again frequency based test and one of the very widely used tests. Second is ordinal data. For example, brand preferences are there. If I give you 5 brands of soaps and ask you to arrange these 5 brands of soap in order of your preference. I mean, in preference, increasing preference or decreasing preference, whatever it may be. Brand first, maybe your rank 1 may be most preferred, rank 5 may be least preferred, or rank 1 may be least preferred, and rank 5 may be most preferred, whatever the way you want. A ranking scale in which numbers are assigned to objects. I believe somebody has raised hand. Should I take it?
Yes, Dr. If you're comfortable to take up the queries along with.
Somebody has raised hands.
Sir, you can continue your session. Sometime participant make attendance by raising a hand. You can continue, sir.
Okay. You see, in a ranking scale, numbers are assigned to objects to indicate the relative extent to which the object possesses some characteristic. Ranking scale can, or ranking data can determine whether the object has more or less of characteristic than other, objects. But it doesn't provide how much more or how much less. That is the problem with this. It provides more information as compared to categorical data or the nominal data, but it gives us only the information which is more and which is less. What is the amount of less or more, we do not know. What is the difference between first and second rank, or second and third rank, and third and fourth rank? It doesn't provide any information. Only the thing is that we can put it in some order, increasing or decreasing order. And as you know, for ordinal data, median is a central tendency which is used as a estimator, and quartiles and interquartile range are other descriptive measures which are used. So in this case, our estimator is median. The third one is the interval data. You see, interval data is generally our, as also called the integer, or integer means which is our discrete data. Basically, more or less a discrete number of discrete data falls into this. Discrete data is the data which can take only few values. It cannot take infinite number of values. If it can take an infinite number of values, it is not discrete data, it is continuous data. So interval data also is a discrete data, is defined as a data type which is measured along a scale in which each point is placed at equal distance from one another. No, it is a scale in which points are placed at equal distance from each other, from 1 to 7, from 1 to 10, 1 to 9, 1 to 100. So difference between 1 to 2 is equal to 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 3 to 5, and 5 to 6, 6 to 7. So this is the interval scale. Interval data always appears in the form of numbers or numerical values, where the distance between the 2 points is standardized or equal. Interval data cannot be multiplied or divided. Now, wherever we have interval data, the problem is that you cannot apply those statistical tools which involve multiplication and division. However, wherever addition or subtractions are used, you can apply those statistical tools. Why it is so? It is so because 0 is arbitrary. There is no 0 point, right? For example, if I ask you to rate restaurant service on the scale of 1 to 7, there is no 0, right? So you cannot, actually it is not a true measurement. Even you are least satisfied or your attitude is least favorable, you can give the ranking of 1 or rating of 1, which is not 0. You cannot give a 0 score, or there is no origin point of it. I mean, idea is that, say if I ask you what is your salary, and somebody is not earning, his salary is 0, but you cannot apply, you cannot measure salary using this interval data because it is 0. 0 is not there. So it has certain limitations that it can take only values from 1 to 7, 5, 9 or something like this. And the statistical tools which are applicable on this are mean, standard deviation, correlation, ANOVA, regression, factor analysis, and MDS, all these. In the final is our continuous or ratio data, which is our true form of ratio, data. It can take any value. It possesses all properties of nominal, ordinal, and interval scale. And the basic definition of ratio data is that it can take any value from minus infinity to positive infinity. That is a basic definition. It can take values in decimals. Now, this interval scale cannot take value in decimals, right? My ordinal data, this cannot take values in decimals. Only ratio, data is there which can take values in decimals. It can take any value from minus infinity to plus infinity, right? And all statistical tools are applicable on this ratio data. Now, this is again another example which has been borrowed from the book of Naresh Kumar Malhotra. So you can see that, say these are the 10 on the left hand side. There are 10 malls, retail malls are there. Parisian, Macy's, Kmart, Kohl's, JCPenney, Neiman Marcus, Marshalls, right? And Walmart, so on. On ordinal scale, you see, you can give it rankings. Say Kohl's obtained the first rank, and this Macy's obtained the second rank, and all this, right? On preference rating, say it is 1 to 7, and you rate it. 7 is the highest rating, highest favorable attitude. So you can see that Kohl's has obtained the rating of 7, whereas the least preferred is Sears. So it has, or Walmart, it has obtained the rating of 2, right? So idea is that 1 to 7, and we measure preference rating as written on above top of it, preference rating. 4 is the neutral, which is the midpoint. So Kmart is neutral, and Kohl's is, or Kohl's or JCPenney, they are the highest rated malls, right? And ratio is nothing but the amount spent on it. 0 is there. So look, 0, it means nothing being spent on it, right? Sorry, let it go. 200 means $200, $100, $250, $35, $0, $100, and so on. 0 means nothing has been spent on this mall by the respondent. So here the 0 is not arbitrary. 0 means the expenditure is nil. Now let us come to scaling. As we already discussed that scaling means, there is one continuum and you have to select one object on this continuum, right, to give your response to, certain characteristic. So if you look at broadly, there are 2 types of scales: comparative scales and non-comparative scales. As its name suggests, comparative scale means it involves the direct comparison of stimulus objects. Comparative scale data must be interpreted in relative terms and have only ordinal or rank order properties. Comparative means objects are compared with respect to other objects. There are few objects and they are compared with one another, right? And their interpretation is done with respect to one another and not the third one, which is not part of the experiment. So that is a limitation as well as the property of comparative scaling. Whereas non-comparative scale, as its name suggests, that is in absolute term. Each object is scaled independently of others in the stimulus set, and resulting data are generally assumed to be interval or ratio scaled. In comparative scales, the data that we obtain are either ordinal or, ordinal in nature, which is rank order, which has rank order properties. Whereas in non-comparative scales, we obtain the data which is on interval scale or ratio scale. So we have non-comparative scales, which are continuous rating scale, Likert scale, Thurston scale, cementing scale, and Staple scale. Whereas comparative scales we have, in which we have paired comparison, ranking, and constant sum. Let us first start with the comparative scaling techniques. The first is paired comparison scale. Now, As its name suggests, that paired comparison, the objects are compared in pair form, right? We form the pairs of the objects and then we compare it with one another, right? A respondent is presented with two objects at a time and asked to select one according to some criteria. I mean, we say there are 5 objects, say 5 soap brands are there, or 5 toothpaste brands are there, or 5, shaving cream brands are there. And we offer our respondents one by one 2 brands. Say if 2 brands are there, let us take this example on the next. Lux and Vivel are the 2 soap brands, right? So if you look at, there are 5 soap brands, Lux, Vivel, Synthol, Dove and Rexona, and we offer at one time 2 soap brands, Lux and Vivel. Say first we offer Lux and Vivel, and we ask our respondent to select the brand he preferred based on any criteria, whichever that comes to his mind. That may be price or any other characteristic associated with the soap, whatever that comes to his mind. What is his selection criteria? He choose one object, and whatever the object he choose, we put it as 1, right? When column is preferred across row, then it is given 1. When row object is preferred over column, it is given as 0. You can see that. Say Lux and Vivel, when they are compared and Lux is preferred over Vivel, then we give it 1. When Lux is compared with Synthol and Lux is preferred, it is given 1. When Lux is compared with Dove and Dove is preferred, now Dove is on row side of it and it is given 0, and here it is given 1 when Dove is compared with Lux. Here you can see Dove is compared with Lux and it is marked as 1 here, and Lux when compared with Rexona, it is marked as 1. Vivel when compared with Lux, so it is already 0 because Lux we have compared it here, but Vivel when compared with Lux, now Lux is preferred over Vivel, so it is marked here as 0 because here it is 1. You can see Lux when compared with Vivel, column wise Lux is preferred, so Lux here it is given 1, here it is given 0. Vivel cannot be compared with Vivel. Vivel when compared with Synthol, it is preferred over Synthol, so it is given marked as 1. Vivel when compared with Dove, Dove is preferred, so it is row, it is given here 0. Vivel when compared with Rexona, it is preferred, so it is given 1. So Synthol is not preferred everywhere. You see it is 0, 0, 0. It means all row items are preferred over columns. Dove is preferred over Lux. Dove is preferred over Vivel. Dove is preferred over Synthol. Dove is preferred over Rexona. So all ones are here, and Rexona is already compared. So Rexona, right? When it is compared with Lux, Vivel, Synthol, right? It is preferred here once, and because it is here, one is Rexona is 1 here, right? So we take the total of 3. Look, Lux has obtained 3 scores, Vivel has 2, Dove has 4, and Rexona has 1. How many total combinations are 10? 10 combinations are there. 3 plus 2, 5 plus 4, 9 plus 1, 10. So this is how it is done. So the data obtained are ordinal in nature. Now whatever the data we have obtained, now it has become ordinal. How ordinal? You can see I can put it in the ordinal form. Dove, Lux 3, Vivel 2, Rexona 1. So it has a rank of 4, 3, 2, 1. 4 means highest preferred, 1 means lowest preferred, right? So paired comparison scaling is the most widely used comparative scale technique. With n number of brands, then n into n minus 1 divided by 2 paired comparisons are required. For example, if there are 5 brands, then there would be 5 into 4, 20 divided by 2, 10 pairs would be there. Under the assumption of transitivity, it is possible to convert paired comparison to rank order. So as we have seen that we can convert now this final information that is obtained, we can convert it to rank order. So ultimately what we are getting is rank order, and we discussed in the slide that whatever the data that is obtained through comparative scaling is, that is either ordinal or rank order. So ultimately we are obtaining the rank. Second is the comparative scaling technique is the rank order scaling. So we already know that ranks are there. Respondents are presented with the several objects simultaneously and asked to order or rank them according to some criteria. So what we do is we offer, instead of having paired comparison, now we offer all objects to the respondent, and we ask respondents to, put them into certain kind of order. Order from most preferred to least preferred, or least preferred to most preferred, whatever the order you can take on, and whatever the criteria that comes to the minds of respondent. It is possible that respondent may dislike the brand and rank it one, and in absolute sense, I mean, ideas that is very much possible. The most disliked product can be ranked one, and most liked could be ranked last, highest ranking, or whatever the criteria you want to choose. Most preferred to least preferred, or least preferred to most preferred. Of course, there would be n-1 decision, scaling decision need to be made. Of course, if there are 4 items, then he has to make 3 decisions, because 4th will automatically fall at the place, right? 4th will automatically fall at the place, right? So now second is the comparative scaling techniques. In comparative scaling techniques, the first one is the constant sum scaling. Constant sum scaling, as its name suggests, that sum has to be constant. Constant sum is there, the total has to be constant. Now what we do in this is that we respondents allocate a constant sum of units such as 100 points to attributes of a product to reflect their importance. We offer certain attributes. Say a product is here, and now we are talking of attributes of the product, not exactly the products. That which attribute they like the most, which attribute they feel that it is least important, and which attribute it is the most important. So there is certain set of attributes, 5 or 6 attributes are there, even more than those attributes could be there, and we ask our respondent to give them the weightage or scores in such a way that total is 100. If any attribute is unimportant, the respondent may assign it 0 or very low points. If an attribute is very important, so he can give it higher ranking or higher weightage, higher scores to this, right? If an attribute is, respondent feel that one attribute is twice the important as compared to other attributes, so it must obtain double scores. So if it is giving 10 scores to less important and 20 scores to high important, it means that the higher important is 2 times more important as compared to the less important attribute. And the sum of all points has to be 100, as the name suggests. For example, look at this one. Now, there are 5 attributes. 5 attributes you might consider while buying a car. Please indicate a total of 100 to them. More the points, more important is the attribute to you. Now, these are the attribute: mileage, sitting capacity, luggage space, proximity to dealer, and service cost. And somebody may give it like this: the mileage has the highest importance, so it has been given 30 points on this. Whereas sitting capacity is the second most important and has been given 25 points. Luggage space is comparatively less important, so has been given 15 points. Proximity to dealer has 10 points, and service cost is 20. And if you sum of all this, it is 100. So we know that from here, if we have aggregate data from thousands of respondents, we may get to know overall that which is the most important attribute and which is the least important attribute. This is the score obtained from a single respondent. And when we have this kind of data from large set of respondents, then we have very quantitative data that can be used for decision making. But a single respondent will provide information like this. These are the points, and the sum has to be 100. So that is why it is called constant sum scaling, right? And in non-comparative scales, we have continuous scale is here. In continuous scale, say we ask a respondent to rate certain characteristic on a scale 1 to 100. 1 means least preferred, 100 means most preferred. So what happens that it is very easy to understand from 1 to 100. One can give, it very precise information. One can give a extremely high level of any information with very high level of precision. Precision in the sense that somebody can give 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, any, you can break down the information into pieces also. So this is a rating scale, and not very widely used, but it is used as overall scales generally, right? So it is very easy to understand. And 1 means, which is the lowest form of it, say highly dissatisfied, 100 means highly satisfied, 1 means least favorable, 100 means most favorable, 1 means least preferred, 100 means most preferred, or something like this. Then is a Likert scale, which is most widely used kind of scale. You can see a scale, 5-point Likert scale example in front of you. Likert scale is itemized kind of scale. It is 5-item scale. Look at this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, from strongly disagree to strongly agree. It could be 7-point scale. It could be even 9-point scale or 11-point scale. Yes, it can be even number scale also. It could be 4-point scale, 6-point scale, 8-point scale, and 10-point scale also. But in that would be, in that case, there will not be any neutral point in it, right? But odd item scale is balanced scale, whereas even item scales are unbalanced kind of scales. We always generally prefer, we should use balanced scale as compared to unbalanced scale. So you can see these, 4 statements are there, or this is a scale to measure the job satisfaction, and responses are measured on this 5-point itemized scale, which is Likert scale. In Likert scale, what happens that each and every point is described. 1 means strongly disagree, 2 means disagree, 3 means neutral, neither agree nor disagree, 4 means agree, and 5 means strongly agree. Somebody cannot give some 1.5 or 2.5 to this. If it is 2.5, it will be considered as 3. If it is 1.5, less than 1.5, it is considered as 1. If it is more than 1.5, it must be considered as 2. Right? So they are, these are scored like this. Second is Thurston. This is another, a very different, very similar form of Likert scale. Only the difference is that here the points are not described. We do not give any description to these points. We do not say that 3 is neutral, or 4 is agree, or 5 is, we give only, description to endpoints. 1 means strongly disagree, 5 means strongly agree, and we ask our respondents to rate the statements on 5-point scale. Whatever the criteria that comes to his mind, only thing is information provided is 1 is strongly disagree and 5 is strongly agree. In between, the points are not described, and whatsoever comes to the minds of respondents, they may rate it accordingly. They may consider 3 as neutral, they may not consider as neutral. They may consider 2 as somewhat disagree, or disagree, or something like this. Whatever that comes to their mind, this scale has to be generated in their minds. Then step-up scale is another kind of scale which is sometimes used, especially whenever we are evaluating certain kind of physical services or physical products are there. In step-up scale, what happens that there is a point of origin, and we ask a respondent to move either in the positive direction of it or negative direction. We evaluate the product moving positive side or moving negative side of it. When we are moving toward the positive side of it, it means the attitude is positive. The behavioral aspect is positive. If we are moving on the negative side of it, the behavior is negative. For example, look at this product innovation or interpersonal skills. Interpersonal skills 1, 2, 3 means as we move toward the positive side, interpersonal skill increases. If somebody rates the interpersonal skill of, say, your teacher or your colleagues, say it rates it at 3, and another one rates it at 2. It means a person who has rated at 3 perceive that your colleague has more interpersonal skill as compared to the other one who has perceived that as 2 or rated at 2. Whereas negative means as we move towards negative, the behavior aspect is, or the thought process is negative. -3 is more negative as compared to -2. So when somebody rated at -3, it means he is more negative as compared to -2. His perception towards interpersonal skill is more negative as compared to somebody who has rated at -2 or -1. So this is another way of measuring, but generally this scale is used when we are evaluating certain kind of physical object or physical phenomena or something like this. Cementing differential scale is there. That is another form of scale in which we actually ask our respondents to select the appropriate position on a continuum. This continuum is a bipolar in the sense that we say it is a 7-point scale, for example, that is given there, and we have described only two poles: cold, warm, cooperative, uncooperative, unreliable, reliable. And we ask our respondent to rate any object or person or behavior on this scale, right? Whatever criteria that comes to his mind, from moving from left to right, negative to positive or positive to negative, we do not describe the things here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, say somebody may perceive 4 as neutral, somebody may perceive 3 as neutral, or somebody may perceive that there is no neutral point and it is a continuous increasing, right? So whatever that comes to the minds of consumers or respondents, they are supposed to rate it on this bipolar scale, right? It is a bipolar scale. What we have to do is, I mean, the thing that should come to the minds of researcher is when we have something bipolar, that is towards one end and other object is towards the other end of it, and we want to measure between two poles wherever this phenomena lies or wherever this characteristic lies. So whenever poles comes to your mind, you should use that scale. So these are the scales which are generally used. The other things that one should keep in mind is that should we use balanced scale or unbalanced scale? Of course, unbalanced scale is preferred over balanced scale. For details, you can refer certain literature on this, or you can refer certain books on this, but I am telling you the crux that balanced scales are preferred over unbalanced scales. Second, should it be 5-point or should it be 7-point? 7-point scale is the most preferred scale as compared to 5-point or 9-point scale, especially in Indian context. In Western context, in Western countries, if you look at America or Europe or Britain, you will find that most of the scales which are used are 5-point scales. But in Indian context, it is said that 7-point scale is better as compared to 5-point scale. So you prefer to use 7-point scale as compared to 5-point scale. Third is, by chance you are using a 7-point scale, but the original scale is 5-point scale. Now, please listen to the question that, say you are using say, as I said, you should use 7-point scale instead of 5-point scale as a supervisor. But original scale that you are referring is a 5-point scale. Can you do it? Yes, you can do it. Second thing that is very, very important to know that, can I convert 7-point scale to 5-point scale or 5-point scale to 7-point scale? Yes, you can convert. There is a formula which we can apply to convert 7-point responses to 5-point scale also, right? Say by chance you are doing it on 7-point scale and there is objection on it that the original scale is 5-point scale, why are you using 7-point scale? So you can convert directly 7-point scale to 5-point scale using the formula. So that formula is also available. If somebody wants to refer that formula, he or she may contact me. I can give you the formula, right? So these are the basics of scaling. That was a very quick session. I have gone through this session very quickly. So I would love to take your queries. What are your questions on this?
Participants, if you have any queries, you can raise your hands now. there is one Dr. Jyoti Mishra. Dr. Jyoti Mishra, you have any query?
Okay, there is one question from Dr. Harpreet. What is the difference between Thurston scale and semantic differential scale? Of course, I've already. This is very commonly asked question that what is the difference between semantic differential scale and Thurston scale? Please try to understand that in Thurston scale, we are measuring certain phenomena characteristic on some, it is unidirectional. It is moving from one rising direction, from strongly disagree to strongly agree, or from strongly agree to strongly disagree. We are not talking of two poles. We never discuss, we study your attitude, behavior, loyalty, you agree, disagree with something. But in semantic differential, we have two opposite poles. You can see that these are the opposite poles which are conventionally not studied using Thurston scale or Likert scale. Only the difference is that whenever certain two poles come to your mind, that you want to study certain phenomena between two extreme points. Extreme points are, or two end points are highly reliable or unreliable. So these are the two end points, and between these, the reliability of some person, some instrument, some technique, some network will lie. Then you want to study that what is their opinion or attitude towards between this. So Thurston scale, although they seem to be very similar, but only the difference is that, as I said again and again, that in semantic differential scale, you should think in terms of bipolar, two opposite poles when it comes to your mind. Otherwise, there is largely no difference. Okay. One by one. Okay. Let me take one by one. There are so many questions are there.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, one question is asked by so many people. Which is the best scale, balanced or unbalanced? I think you have already mentioned the balance is preferred over the unbalanced.
Of
Kindly
course, I have been
elaborate
telling
on
again and again. Yes, balanced scale is better as compared to unbalanced. Balanced is 5-point odd scale. Odd scale in the sense 5.7.9 point. Unbalanced is where there is no neutral point. Neutral point means you have 4, 6, 8 or something like this, and neutral is missing. You believe that there is no neutral point, one cannot be neutral about certain phenomena. So in that case, it is unbalanced. So 5.7.9 point, it is a balanced scale, whereas 4.6 point, it is unbalanced scale. Balanced scale is preferred over unbalanced scale. I'm not saying you cannot use unbalanced scale or it is totally ruled out. No, please don't take it like this. But I'm saying that please look at the phenomena which you are studying, but generally balanced scale is preferred as compared to unbalanced scale. Let me read more questions. The data we collect in Likert scale. There is one question from Surya Kumar. that the data we collect in Likert scale, is it considered ordinal or interval? It is, of course, interval scale. It is interval data. You see, whatever interval data is there, it has a property of ordinal data. Please try to understand. Ordinal, nominal data is here, which is the most basic form of data. Then ordinal data is here. Ordinal has order as well as category. Interval has, a property of ordinal data as well as categorical data already in it, but it provides certain more information, right? So it is interval, Likert scale data is interval in nature. Of course, it has, ordinal property already inbuilt in it. Somebody is asking, what is the benefit of unbalanced scale? The benefit of unbalanced scale is that there is a neutral point on certain, when you are studying using any phenomena, using multiple statements. These multiple statements are measuring certain underlying phenomena or abstract phenomena or under qualitative phenomena. What happens that sometimes we are not very sure of answering something. So I should have the liberty to be neutral on this, that I am undecided on this. So that is the advantage of unbalanced scale, right? Sometimes you feel that your respondent may not be fully aware of certain concept or certain scale, certain, statement you are asking, certain, we are asking certain question, and might be sometimes they are not very sure of it. So they must have liberty to say neutral. Sorry, I do not want to answer this. I'm not very sure of it. I'm neutral on this. Sometimes they are neutral.
Sir, one question is asked by so many participants: how to convert 5-point scale to 7-point scale?
Yes, of course, 5-point scale to 7-point scale can be converted. You see, there is one formula that is used. I will share formula with you. Today, I have not brought that formula. Unfortunately, it is not in the presentation, but in the next session, I'll bring that formula. First, I'll give you that formula immediately. Don't worry. I'll share that formula with you. No issue at all. I'll give you the organizers of this workshop, this formula, no issue. Or next session, I have one more session on 25th. I'll share that formula with you. No issue at all. Please give me time. Thank today. Unfortunately, right? Definitely I'll give you. If somebody, Mr. Ranjit Singh is asking, kindly tell me in brief the procedure for developing any scale related to knowing the problems of handicapped children. Ranjit ji, I tell you, developing a scale is one of my most favorite area. How to develop new scales, and developing a new scale itself is equivalent to PhD. I tell you, it is a very lengthy and elaborative process. It requires at least one complete session, one hour session to briefly actually discuss all these things.
Exactly.
So I don't know whether developing a new scale is part of this FDP or not, but let me tell you that developing a new scale itself is a full-fledged PhD topic. So you can contact me some other day. I'll give you a complete presentation on this, or a complete, procedure of developing a new scale. It is, it is a cumbersome process. It is not that easy. So maybe we need to discuss on it. So it will take time. Actually, I cannot answer it now. It is a quite lengthy process. Ishwini is asking, in stepple scale, we look at positive and negatives. How to quantify if we have to combine the results? We have to take merely summation. Take the summation when we are, for each statement or each attribute, whatever the scores are obtained from respondents, we take the summation of this, and this is the net result we obtain. which data is useful? Of course, Indu Balaji, Dr. Indu Bala, data on ratio scale is most useful data because all types of mathematical operations are applicable on it, and we can apply all statistical tools on it.
Sir, one question is regarding the recommendation of any good book for tool development.
Any good book for scale development?
Yes, sir.
There are few, books already on scale development specifically written. You can refer a book by, if you are developing a scale of marketing research, marketing or something like, then you can refer the book of marketing research by Naresh Kumar Malhotra. And then there are some specified books are there, I'll share, I may not remember the name as of now, but you can read this book of marketing research by Naresh Kumar Malhotra. This is very good book in which he has discussed the scale development quite in length. How can we select whether to choose for Thurston scale or cementing differential scale? Please, I'm again, Manindra Kaurji, I'm answering your call. Whenever you have some objects being measured on two poles, extreme poles are there, then you should choose semantic differential scale. Or rather, if your measurement is unidirectional in the sense that it is increasing or decreasing, for example, strongly disagree to strongly agree, or highly dissatisfied to highly satisfied, then you should use Thurston scale. Basically, if you put, if you look at the differences, not there, no, the difference is there. Only the thing is you are putting either bipolar things or not. If you are putting bipolar things, it becomes semantic differential scale. So if you want to measure something on two extreme poles, then it automatically becomes a semantic differential scale.
I think we have taken quite a lot of questions from the participants. It is my pleasure to announce you that we will have Dr. Amanpreet Singh ji again on the penultimate day of the FDP. And if there are any queries, we will be able to take those queries on that day. So thanks, Dr. Amanpreet Singh ji, for very informative deliberation. It was very
one more
delightful. Sure, sir, if you want.
I will bring the name of one or two books which are very good, and those could be helpful in scale development. And I'll bring that formula, how to convert 7-point scale to 5-point scale, or 5-point scale to 7-point scale. That is there, and I'll share. If you need anything else in the meantime, you may please convey to organizers of this workshop, and they will further communicate it to me. And in the next class, I'll bring it. Whatever you want, you let me know. I'll share it with you. Thank you, please.
And so nice of you, Doctor. It was a very wonderful deliberation, and we delighted it very much. It was very much informative to learn about the different types of scales, semantic differential scales. I can remember that when I was preparing for my UGC examination, there was quite a lot of questions on this, what is semantic differential scales, and hopefully the participant must have understood these scales thoroughly. We will look forward to meet you on penultimate day of this FDP, that's on 25th. So now I request Dr. Pargat Singh Garcha to have a vote of thanks for the resource persons and delegates. Over to Dr. Pargat Singh Garcha.
Thank you, Dr. Jugeshji. Very good evening to all. I would like to propose a hearty vote of thanks. First of all, we are very thankful to Dr. Mandeep Kochar, Vice Principal, Bombay Teacher Training College, and now it is named as HSNC University. Dr. Mandeep has shared with us a very elaborative talk on case study. Ma'am also shared research-based data on people's awareness about case study. Use of one example of a study on transgender issues make it easy to understand the concept and process of case study. The second example of case study related to Irani cafe in Mumbai was really informative. And we are really thankful, ma'am, for your wonderful presentation. And my next sincere thanks is to Dr. Amanpreet Singh, School of Management Studies, Punjab University, Patiala. Sir has explained scale of measurement in an interesting and easy way by citing suitable examples. Examples of diverse field help the participant to understand social science research from various dimensions. The chat box was full with appreciation for both the resource persons and so many queries. This is the real output of this FDP. एक सवाल तुम करो, एक सवाल मैं करूं, हर सवाल का जवाब फिर एक सवाल हो. This is the ultimate process of learning, and we really enjoyed in this session. So thanks to Dr. Amanpreet ji. My next thanks is to Dr. Khushwinder Kumar ji, President, Council for Teacher Education Foundation and Principal, Modi College, and the technical team behind this FDP. Last but not the least, a dear participant of this FDP, who are the real asset who can improve quality of research at grassroots level. So my thanks to all. Thank you very much. And we will be bringing this type of program for you people. It is a third day. So in the next day, we will meet with other two resource person. Till then, have a nice time. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.